Hello everyone, welcome to episode 6 of HorrorHouse, the new horror podcast for all you lovers of this fine genre. Today, my guest is the host of the DVD Bunker on the TUFF channel and a very good friend of mine, Brian Hurst.
Oh, thank you for that fine introduction, and thanks for having me, man. This is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a great episode. We are talking deconstructive or self-aware horror movies, and of course, as usual, this topic was chose by our guest. And it's a great topic, I might add.
Yeah, and I was when you started mentioning, some other movies. We were talking about. I was like, man, there are so many good ones. Like, there's so many good representations. Because I think when it's done well, it's just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, looking when we first mentioned that we were thinking about doing this particular topic, we were looking at I was looking at lists of ones we could mention, and there are a surprising amount actually. Like, you don't think it's gonna be that you don't think there's gonna be that much sort of self-aware out there, but surprisingly there is, and that's what I found anyway.
Well, once a genre's been around long enough,
Yeah.
a generation or two goes by, and then it starts to become ripe for parody and for deconstruction. So I think
Yeah.
but I think something like that is hard to do well, and I think that's
Oh yeah.
where it gets interesting, because there are actually a lot of good ones. It's not just because it can get kind of hacky and
Yeah.
So and I think we got some good ones to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, we started doing this in the last episode with Billy, as you of course know. And so I'm going to dedicate a bit of time at the start here to for you to talk about your absolute ultimate all-time favourite horror movie.
Ooh.
If you even have an answer for that question.
Well, I actually do. Not only I can do you one better. My actual all-time favorite movie, period, is the James Cameron's director's cut of Aliens.
Okay.
So now, is that too actiony? Because to me, the director's cut adds back in a lot of suspense elements, especially in the first half.
I don't believe
really
I've seen the
balance
director's
it out
cut.
a little bit more. So, but I mean, if you want something of really definitively horror, we can do that too.
Oh no, I mean we've talked about Aliens on this podcast as a horror film, and I do agree it does have enough horror elements for me to be, mentioned on a horror podcast. So that is a perfectly valid answer, and I thank you for it.
Oh yeah, no, and like I said, I really specifically, if you've only ever seen the regular Aliens, do yourself a favor and watch Cameron's director's cut. I mean, it's like a whole different movie to me.
Right.
It's great. So.
Well, there's your recommendation, guys. I don't believe I've seen the director's cut. I think I've only seen the original, so I might have to give that one a go myself.
Well, and I mean, who needs another excuse to go watch Aliens?
Oh, I know. No one does. No one should.
Yeah, sign me up anytime.
Definitely. Okay, I was wondering if you would like to start us off with by talking about a self-aware horror that you wanted to mention. Bear in mind that the main one that we discussed that will stay a spoiler for any listeners until it's mentioned. I want to do that at the end.
Oh, okay.
As a big finale type thing.
Sure.
So if you did have any more though.
Well, I know we had bounced back and forth a couple, and the first one that jumped right out was Scream.
Yeah.
I think before we talk about Scream, can I real quick shout out Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I had that
I
on
mean,
my list as well.
Scream is like his second swing at the meta commentary,
Yep.
where to me his first swing was a home run. It just didn't get seen by enough people.
Oh yeah, I New Nightmare's great. I mean,
Yeah, I love New Nightmare. To me, I was talking to my wife about this. I go back and forth on whether I think that New Nightmare is actually scarier, like overall, than the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
oh, right.
Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's not more iconic, or I'm not even saying it's better, but is it scarier? And I just, because I think New Nightmare is really good, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I
I,
wanted to shout that out real quick before we talked about Scream as like a kind of, it's almost like a cousin to Scream. It bridges
yeah.
the gap between those two iconic franchises that were created by the same guy.
Yeah. I mean, you say Craven, say his first love letter to horror was New Nightmare and all that sort of self-aware. Freddy is actually hunting down the cast of the original Nightmare on Elm Street film, and it's just all very, mixed up. Is this real? Is this the dream world? Is this?
Right, and he managed to do what I think everybody was skeptical about, and which is probably what hurt the movie in the box office originally, is that people didn't think Freddy could be scary again. Everybody was like, they were just over it by
Yeah.
that point. He was real, everything had become a joke. He was more like a pop culture icon,
Yeah.
which is weird, right? The way that we kind of like
Yeah. I mean
made
that
a
happens to
child
a lot of
murderer into
horror.
a
That happens to a lot of horror, sort of iconic horror monsters, killers. They become, things we love
yeah, yeah.
rather than what people at the time originally saw as terrifying things.
Right, right. But Freddy, I think more than most, even because of the nature of the kind of fantastical things that he would do in
Yeah.
the movies, became even more like almost like a cartoon character.
Yeah, I mean
And
he
but
was.
man, he was scary as hell in the New Nightmare.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember the first time I watched it, and the sort of third act, big dream world. I want to say chase.
Yeah,
Where
she kind of goes in
yeah,
to Freddy's into Freddy's world. It's like a boiler room.
yeah.
Kind of.
I just remember being mesmerized by that on first viewing, because this is bizarre. This is full on dream world brilliant.
Right. This could be hell. Like this
Yeah.
is hell. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, but like we were saying, with Scream, I think Wes took what he did so well in New Nightmare and maybe made it more accessible
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
people.
He repackaged it a little bit,
Yeah.
and also using an original idea and not having the Freddy baggage attached to it helped.
Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, Scream has probably become known to sort of define the self-aware horror, really, hasn't it? Because
and I mean, really brought horror back.
oh yeah, brought the
in a
slasher back, and I
huge
love the
way.
slasher.
Yeah, in the '90s, at that point in the '90s, horror was pretty much almost straight to video for
Yeah.
the most part. And I mean, after that, we saw so many clones and copycats.
Yeah.
Some good, some bad. But I mean, it was really great. Just a revival for the whole genre. So it can't be denied that like 2 times, Wes Craven, defined and like gave a shot of life to the whole. I mean, he's a master for sure.
Oh, he is a true master of this genre, and I love him. You love him. I think everybody who has a fondness of horror is just in love with Wes Craven, because how could you not be? The man
he's like
was
the
a
Beatles
genius.
of horror movies. Even if you decide for some reason, which I can't imagine why, that you don't like his work, you cannot deny his impact.
Exactly. You just can't. There's no way of doing. He's done so much within the genre, and he, from his starting out as these sort of gritty, horrible films, like Last House on the Left, which is so different to something like Scream and New Nightmare, which came later. And I always think that when you can play both sides that well, you know, both sides of the spectrum. It's just, it deserves to be admired.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you. I rewatched the Screams recently.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you how you feel about Sydney Prescott as a survivor girl. Like, where does she rank for you?
She, to be honest, quite near to the top. Not the top, but yeah, I like her as a survivor, you know, final girl.
Yeah.
She's no Laurie Strode, but she's top five. She's top five.
Yeah, see, I'm with you. In fact, I would go even a little stronger because I feel like when I was rewatching them, I realized that even from the very beginning, you know, like Laurie Strode and even Ellen Ripley,
Yeah.
it takes time. They start off with kind of a meek and mild, you know,
Yeah.
a little underfoot. Sydney almost never has that. She almost always is on top of the situation. Like she makes some of her own mistakes the way she calls them out, but only out of necessity. You know what I mean? It's only because she has no other option. She doesn't go up the stairs because she doesn't know what she's doing. She gets cornered, and so she turns around. She has to go the other way. And I was thinking, I was like, man, she could be almost like I would have to have a serious debate about not making her number one. So
Right.
I just think she's very impressive. And rewatching the whole series again, I was pretty impressed. Although I do think they missed some opportunities, you know, to maybe kill her off in the fourth movie, or even make her the killer, even though that would have been the ultimate cliche. But I think it would have worked in this series.
Yeah, I think something like that probably would have worked in Scream. You know, being as being as parodic as it is. Yeah, I think that would have.
Like you could get away with it because of the nature of these movies.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna talk now a bit about one that is certainly more of a comedy than something like Scream or New Nightmare, but I think these self-aware horrors do have, even, you know, the more horror-y, if that is even a word, ones like
we could make it one.
Scream. Let's make that a word. This is patented word by HorrorHouse is horror-y, so everyone use that. But yeah, I wanted to talk about Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Okay, see,
because I love that.
This one, and it's one of those movies that has been on my Netflix now forever, and it just rides. It's just and I just like never. I don't know if I've never flipped. I've seen it, but it's like I can't. Yeah. I don't know how I haven't made the time to watch it, so I'm excited to hear you talk a little bit about it.
Oh man, yeah, it is hilarious, and it is basically these two guys played by Alan Tudyk, and I can't for the life of me remember the other guy's name.
Not
Alan Tudyk. By Alan Tudyk and not Alan Tudyk. But they are like the most stereotypical backwoods horror killers. You know, they should be living in the same house as the family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, right on.
But they are delightful people. They are lovely people. They would not harm a fly. But they get into these situations with this group of teenagers where the teenagers think that they are the killers that are killing them off. But they're just like, no, we're not. Honestly, we're not the killers. And then the teenagers end up chasing them two down because they think they're the killers. It just sort of turns it completely the other way.
Oh, I like it.
And you basically get Alan Tudyk and not Alan Tudyk. I do apologise to that actor.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Just running away from, you know, killer teenagers wielding axes and chainsaws and all sorts. Rather than what we may have expected in the beginning of the film, where those two, you know, or to be more generic about it,
Sure.
the more backwards characters are the killers, but not in the case of Tucker and Dale.
I like it. Yeah, I'll definitely move it up on my. I mean, like I said, it's just been riding in my list on Netflix forever, and it's just one
Oh
of those
yeah,
things
I
I have
mean,
not gotten around to. Which we all have those gaps, you
oh
know.
we do. I am horribly embarrassed about some of my movie gaps, I will admit, but that is not a discussion for now.
No, and that's something you can always keep working on, but it's hard. It's
Oh
hard
yeah,
when you're trying to keep up with new things,
yeah,
and like having a show, you're sometimes watching stuff for research, and
yeah, yeah,
and so it takes up your time. There's only so many hours in the day.
yeah,
You gotta work, you gotta live your life,
yeah. Yeah, but that was just one that I thought deserved a mention as something that was sort of slightly deconstructive in the sense that it just flipped it completely on its head. So,
Absolutely.
did you have any more that you
Yeah,
wanted
well,
to mention?
another one we talked about was a little bit more recently, but I think that really did a great job with it was Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I don't think everybody knows by now that this was just an out of nowhere, like, pleasant. You don't get pleasant surprises like this all the time.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it really was. I remember watching it when it came out. I think most of us were expecting a run of the mill. Oh, this is another
well, yeah, they
cabin
kind of
film.
marketed it
Yeah,
just as a straightforward, which was kind of brilliant, really.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it kept people from seeing it in the theater because,
Well,
you
yeah. It
know,
might not have been good for Bud, for financial reasons.
right,
But
right.
yeah, that it's what I feel about Cabin in the Woods. It tells quite a. It's not like some of these others that sort of sort of funny and fun is more appropriate. Cabin in the Woods feels more like a legitimate horror, but
Yeah, there's moments of comedy in it, but just in a very general way, in a very natural way of like
yeah,
friends interacting with each other, and like
yeah,
the way, and like a lot of humor comes from the kind of real banal way they treat, like the way the people in the bunker who are running the show, the way they
yeah,
treat it, and their kind of like
yeah,
ambiguity towards it. That the comedy comes out of that.
yeah.
So it
But
doesn't have to be real jokey. It just feels very natural.
yeah, but I mean, that I still have very fond memories of watching the third act of The Cabin in the Woods for the first time, and just seeing everyone in horror. All
Oh yeah.
every single monster, every single killer, just granted they're probably on the screen for probably half a second, and you can barely make them out, but
But if you're a
they're
fan,
there.
it's so easy to
Yeah,
to like pick them out and know exactly what the reference is, and they're so
yeah,
like they're specific without being copies. You know what I mean? You can just
yeah,
kind of piece them together. And I have to say, like, I remember the first time I was watching it, and I was like, this is cool and a cool concept, but I was kind of bummed that they went with just like kind of a generic zombie killer
yeah,
family
yeah.
because they have all that cool stuff on the board. And then when they
But
pay it
then,
off in the third act,
yeah,
so it hits so much harder.
it
And
does.
then you get cameo by Sigourney Weaver,
Yeah,
which you cannot.
it's
You can only
that was
improve your
perfect.
movie. Yeah, you can only improve your movie by putting Sigourney Weaver in it.
Yeah, you can. But yeah, I mean, even to go down to, all the characters just being complete stereotypes, and the movie telling us that they are those stereotypes. It's just more ways of, like we said,
Right,
deconstructing.
and they go out of their ways to force those people into
Yeah,
those boxes. Like they make reference that the Chris Hemsworth character is actually really smart and stuff. And even though he's
yeah,
a jock, he's not one of those kind of. But they like specifically make them to
yeah.
fit into those forms. I
It,
think that was a really smart and funny and interesting
yeah, it's
kind of thing to do. And you can't beat Richard Jenkins and
oh yeah,
Bradley Whitford
yeah,
as the guys. I mean, you could not have cast those two
yeah.
roles
They
any better.
are
So good.
sadistically hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. And like I said, playing the kind of like they're just numb to it at this point. It's just a job to them, and they just do what they have to do, and they kind of live their lives anyway. And it's just so it's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a huge horror fan, just for something to be so referential and just have all of those, all the tropes of all the character tropes just played on, and you can sit there realizing, right, so he's that, she's that. It makes a movie watching experience more fun for me when I'm able to do that and the movie knows what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Should we talk about another one?
Oh, sure. Do you have one in mind?
I do. I wanted to go all the way back, as I often like to the 40s. The 1940s, when Universal Horror... Oh, I think something just... okay. Universal Horror, and when it became silly.
So this would be... Yes, are you talking Abbott and Costello?
I am talking Abbott and Costello.
I haven't seen any of these crossover movies since I was a kid. Like, you know what I mean? They would just be on TV in the middle of the day on a Sunday.
Yeah. It's brilliant, but it's garbage at the same time. It's hilarious, but depressing. Because you see these characters, you see these horror, the character being the legend.
In some instances played by the legit, like, people who played him in the real movies, right?
Yeah. Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi and everything. And then they're interacting with Bud Abbott and Lou Costello.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Which, iconic in their own right.
Yeah.
But,
I mean...
it would be like... I can't even think of what a parallel would be. It'd be like putting Jay and Silent Bob in the next Halloween movie,
I'm down for... Wow, that actually... That Jay and Silent Bob, that sounds... I need that.
Let's just make that happen.
Jay and Silent Bob in Halloween. Kevin Smith, get on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Drop what you're doing.
Drop everything that you're doing. Make the next Halloween...
Jaws later.
Yeah, make the next Halloween movie and put you and Jason Mewes in it.
And I want Jason Mewes to go back on drugs, too.
No, we don't want that.
Oh, no? Oh, okay.
No.
Never mind. Don't go back on drugs,
But yeah, Abbott and Costello, specifically Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which I think is the best of those weird crossover things, because it is legitimately funny, and it just shows it's the perfect example of when a horror subgenre, goes past its peak and decides to just throw anything to make money.
Right, the studio's just like, what can we squeeze out of this?
But in this case, it kind of works.
Yeah. There's varying levels of success, because I will defend Freddy vs. Jason. I think that's a fun movie. I think that's a fun, it's not a great film, but it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I have slightly interesting feelings towards Freddy vs. Jason, but yeah, I can accept. It is a fun film. That's all it is. That's all it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. So I do think there's room to try those things out and stuff like that to varying levels of success.
Yeah, but I mean, but like I say, I do think that Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was quite a successful, one in terms of, what strange things Universal Horror was doing in the mid-40s when they just decided to go silly.
Yeah, why not, right? Let's try it out. Let's see what works.
Yeah. Okay, did you have any more?
Yeah, I have a couple other ones we could could talk about.
Go for it.
One I thought of that I don't know if you've ever seen would be the Project Greenlight movie Feast.
No, I haven't. Go on, take over.
Good. Well, I'm glad at least I was able to bring something to the table.
Oh, I mean, how were you not going to bring something? You bring your A game in everything you do. I was expecting nothing less.
I'm a child of the 90s, so I never put any effort into anything.
Yeah.
So now that I'm an adult, I have to try things.
Okay, go on, take over.
Well, Feast was, like I said, it was one of the Project Greenlight movies, and it's a very self-aware kind of like bottle horror movie. You have a group of survivors trapped in a bar,
right?
And monsters. It's kind of on the desert, and you got monsters on the outside trying to get in.
Right.
It's got some really cool twists on survivor characters, which I like. It plays with the idea of who's going to live and who's going to die a lot, and taking those conventions and things that are taboos, and kind of trying to switch them around and go past those.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but it does have one of my all-time favorite moves by a person to survive a horror situation. So honorable mention to that, but I want people to see it. So I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, well, okay.
It's so fun.
I'll do you a deal. You see Tucker and Dale, and I'll watch that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Excellent. See, with the things work on HorrorHouse, ladies and gentlemen. Things just work out. We are. Okay, since we're maybe about halfway through today's episode, I want to take I went really British then. I want to, that's more like it, I want to take care of a bit of business. A couple of plugs. Brian, do you want to plug anything? Of course you do.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm practically an internet celebrity. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm the current champion of the fan friction on the TUFF channel.
Deservingly so, I might add.
Well, thank you, yeah. You can see a couple videos of me doing well, and one video of me getting absolutely trounced by Hector and Ashley. So there's variety.
That is Hector Navarro of Superhero News, for all those who are not.
That's right, I got to meet him and compete against him and not do great.
No, I loved watching that episode, not because I enjoy seeing you fail, Brian, of course I don't. But, yeah, I mean, to have Hector, if people listening to this aren't aware, the TUFF channel is a YouTube channel that Brian and Jack Shipley and a bunch of other people are involved with. That is just a great fan channel of the Screen Junkies, and that is where all the guests so far, that is where I know them from, this little Screen Junkies community.
Right, we're all just basically super fans.
We are.
We all just get together and we like what they do and we wanted to have some fun, and also gave us a place. I know you had Kimber on the show.
Yes.
They do Odd Shape Panel, and I started a little show myself.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool group of people. It's nice. There's good people out there on the internet.
There is.
You don't have to be scared. Don't just the YouTube comment section isn't all that exists. There's other things out there.
The YouTube comment section is the YouTube comment section is the absolute lowest of the low. You need to get onto Twitter if you really want. If you want good people to meet on the internet in just community buddy ways.
Block is what makes Twitter great.
Yeah.
You only have to talk to people you want to talk to.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful no one's blocked me.
No, not that I know of anyway, right? I mean, would you even know? I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, like we say, if you are enjoying this episode so far, please like, comment, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Go on Twitter, use the hashtag HorrorHousePod if you want to ask me or Brian any questions about what is going on. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter, which is at HorrorHousePod, or you can follow me at the Purple Don. That is with an N. Or you can follow Brian at Hercules. And that is like
good pronunciation.
And that is like Hercules, but Hurst, because his name's Hurst.
Very clever.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good pun.
It's a strong pun.
But yeah, please share this episode if you are enjoying it with any horror lovers you know, retweet it on Twitter, and do all that if you are a fan, and I will be eternally grateful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As will I. I love anybody who wants to reach out and contact me, or if you go over to the TUFF channel, check out Fan Friction, check out my show, DVD Bunker. I got 5 or 6 episodes up now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, DVD Bunker.
Right, I was thinking, because I was getting ready to come on here, we haven't done a proper horror movie yet. We've done some kind of like thrillers and like suspense movies, but no, not a proper horror movie yet. So I gotta get on that.
But hint for slightly later, we are paying homage to the DVD Bunker and doing a little DVD Bunker based film of our own on here.
Ooh, a tease!
Ooh, a tease! Don't you just love teases?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to mention a film. Now, getting back onto the track now. I wanted to mention a film that is a horror film, but is not necessarily a deconstruction of this genre. It is a deconstruction of cinema itself. So it's very high end, one of those film school films, and that is Peeping Tom.
Oh, yeah, see, I'm not familiar.
1968. Yeah, it's British. It is another example of excellent British horror, although it did ruin the career of its director, Michael Powell.
Oh, did it?
Yes, because it was so controversial at the time. You
said 68?
60. 1960.
Oh, 60, wow.
Yeah, it's basically the story of this photographer who takes pictures of people just as he kills them.
Oh.
It's a comment on the vanity of cinema, and we're all focused on our images, and this guy's just he's playing out the role of cinema by photographing these women who he kills in these incredibly vulnerable states. And while it's definitely probably the most serious film we're going to talk about today, but yeah, it is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. But sadly, it just ruined, because of controversy, it ruined the career of its great director. But yeah, I mean, it's not, like I say, it's not a deconstruction of the horror genre, because 1960, most tropes weren't really in place at that time.
Sure.
So you couldn't parody them. But I felt I wanted to mention that because it is deconstructive, and that is what we're talking about, and it is a horror film, but it isn't necessarily both.
Yeah. It's still a deconstruction. It fits it's outside the box. I like the way you think, It's got the elements, but it's like a precursor.
Yeah.
Before there was,
Yeah.
Like we talked about, it takes a couple generations for enough things to be in play to be parodied. Something has to become a cliche before you can point it out as a cliche.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that has, no cliches anywhere near it. but it is just a comment on cinema, and of course horror is a big part of cinema as a whole thing. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, did you have any more before we get onto the big bad one?
Oh, well, I mean, we could just do a couple honorable mentions.
Go for
I
it.
mean, real fast. How about we just break off a couple honorable mentions, and then we can move on.
Go for it.
First, I want to shout out the Funhouse Massacre. Very recent one.
Yes. Yes.
Written by Ben Bagley, his wife
Yeah.
Renee Dorgan helped come up with the idea, and they star also. But a
Yeah.
really fun, you look at just kind of iconic horror archetypes, and also like survivor archetypes.
Yeah.
Even the cops in the movie represent certain archetypes you see in horror movies. So I mean, there's really a lot to enjoy and to kind of take in. It's just you can tell a real love letter to like the 80s and early 90s horror movies.
Oh yeah, I mean
before they became self-aware.
Yeah, I mean on some of the shows that on some of the internet shows that I watch, Ben Bagley, the writer, star, creator, he was talking about how much this was a love letter. Sadly, I have not been able to see this film yet. I am not sure if it is even available in Britain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, living in the States, I got to see it in the theater. Ben Bagley sent me a signed poster.
Oh.
I have it on Blu-ray now.
Oh, well,
I mean, I'm
you're
just bragging at this point.
I mean, it might be available. I might not have looked hard enough, but yeah, I wanted to see that for ages.
It's well worth supporting like independent filmmakers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
it's a really good fun time.
And here's also something that you might be slightly sad about. Our god of screen junkies, Mr. Andy Signore, his film The Janitor is absolutely not available in Britain.
Oh man, okay, I'm gonna do it again. I got a copy of The Janitor on eBay. It's still sealed in its original packaging. I haven't even. I watched it. I got it sent to me through Netflix and watched it.
Right.
But then I ordered it, and since it came, I haven't watched it because we've talked about possibly doing a watch party on the TUFF channel.
Right.
For The Janitor. So I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna unseal it when we do the watch party.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But my God, I've been wanting to see that ever since I first got into Screen Junkies and first heard about it. But it's not
very much a student film, independent, micro budgeted film, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And again, another one that really embraces the genre and is just like,
yeah,
we know what we are. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, to see someone, who I watch, a lot, 4 days of the week, probably, Andy.
Oh yeah, at
least. To see someone I think I know pretty well, not personally, but because he's always on my screen. Yeah, to see him play a maniacal janitor, I just think would be the best thing ever.
Yeah, and you know what I never noticed? And actually, I picked up on it because, sometimes on Screen Junkies, they'll, during after the fights or something, they'll stand. I didn't realize how tall Andy Signore was because he's almost always sitting down when I see him. But you really notice it in The Janitor, how big he is. He's a really tall guy. I didn't realize,
Yeah.
It's probably, he's got to be over 6 foot, so, I mean...
Right. I mean, yeah.
It's for a fairly formidable janitor.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's another. I will have to make a trip over to the US, buy The Janitor somewhere, put it into some sort of... I don't know how I'm going to get to see this film, but I swear to Andy Signore that I will see his film.
I'll put it on my TV. I'll point the webcam at the television.
That's all I need. Excellent.
Right? Problem solved.
Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to mention, as an honourable, I wanted to mention Shaun of the Dead, because of just what it did with zombies. I mean, everyone loves Shaun of the Dead. It's,
arguably the best zombie movie ever made.
Okay.
Well, I can't argue that. That was one of the questions I got my ass whooped on in fan fiction.
Oh, right. Yeah, I probably I always say Night of the Living Dead, but
Yeah, I
that's just
actually went
my.
with the Dawn of the Dead because
I like
I
Dawn of
was
the Dead,
actually
though.
playing the game. Here, a little inside baseball on this. I was actually kind of trying to play the system again and take the popular answer. I
Right.
should have just gone with my gut and taken the original Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead to me will always be the best zombie film. I don't know. I there's something about it I just absolutely love.
No,
But yeah,
it's great. It's amazing. That's why you love it because it's really good.
yeah. I think it was made for something ridiculous like $11,000, and or maybe it was more. I don't know. I don't know why I've got 11 in my head. But yeah,
We're not big on facts here.
I like facts. Yeah, but yeah, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, just mocks the entire zombie genre, but does it in such a great way and such a hilarious way, kicking off that famous Cornetto trilogy.
Absolutely. So good.
Just is it? Yeah, just I mean, I think everyone I know who doesn't even like movies loves Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, and it came out. I mean, it came out at the exact perfect moment because, 28 Days Later came out,
Yeah.
and then the Shaun of the Dead came out the same year as the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is
Yes.
actually a
Yeah.
pretty good remake.
Yeah. Me and Kimber in episode 4 talked about the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I like that.
Arguably Zack Snyder's best movie, except that I think Watchmen's better. But
I like 300.
yeah, 300 is a good movie. Yeah, he had so much promise. What's going on with him? Really great.
I have faith in Zack Snyder. I will continue to say I have
Never
faith in the man. I have faith in the man because I am a huge DC fan, and that's all I can have is just faith and hope.
Aren't we all? Like, yeah, we. No, don't even get me started because I don't want to get into because I've had DC on my brain this whole summer, obviously. But
Yeah.
I just went and saw The Killing Joke.
Yeah, so did I.
It's got me all like worked up, and I just need to watch some Bruce Timm animation and get my head straight.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just about to start talking about The Killing Joke, but then realised this is a horror podcast, not a DC Comics podcast. And we have to talk about horror. But, horror's great. Did you have any more honourable mentions that you wanted to say?
I do have one more I just want to mention only because it's not really, I don't know how much of a deconstruction it is.
Go for it.
It's definitely a little bit of parody, it's definitely a little bit of comedy, and that's Idle Hands.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this?
I'm not, again, I don't know.
Okay, that's alright. This is like late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
I can't remember what year exactly. Devon Sawa, a very early Jessica Alba. This is like one of her first starring roles. Also, the guy who is now Foggy Nelson on the Daredevil show.
Eldon Henson.
Vivica Fox. So, it's a very late 90s, early 2000s cast.
Right.
But it's just a real fun, like, I guess the part that always made me laugh was the premise of it's the stoner kids now who are just the focus, and he's so lazy and slothful that his hand actually gets possessed by the devil.
Brilliant. I love Hans getting possessed. Hans getting possessed, just the best.
Yeah, and this is Devon Sawa gives a Bruce Campbell level performance with making his hand seem like it is a separate entity that he has to do battle with. No one does hand
performances better than Bruce Campbell.
Top-notch work by Devon Sawa.
Great. If he matches up to the majesty of Bruce Campbell, then
he's doing a lot of little finger work and movement when he's not paying attention, but the hand's doing a lot of things, and then he has to do battle with it. Just saying, it's really strong. So
good, great.
Another recommendation for people who are just looking for a fun horror comedy.
Great. Okay. Okay. Let's get into it, shall we?
Okay, so this is where this is the crossover section.
This is the crossover section. Speaking of crossovers, which we were talking about before, this is the crossover between HorrorHouse and Brian's show, the DVD Bunker. Now, the Horror Bunker. Let's call it the Horror Bunker. Yeah, I like that. Yes, we talked the other day about doing this, and Brian came up with a excellent suggestion, I might add, after having watched it.
Oh, I'm
A
so glad to
very
hear
good
that. I was
suggestion.
worried because when you introduce somebody to a new movie, and especially when it's something you really like
Oh yeah, I
and
mean,
you
yeah,
really feel strongly about, that's like a scary time to wait to hear their
yeah.
opinion on it. You
I
know?
I have more that feeling when it comes to TV
Right.
over movies. But if like someone doesn't like a TV show I love, I am astounded and will barely talk to them.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, it's been nice knowing you,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
like
gotta
okay,
stand.
thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in homage to the DVD bunker, myself and Brian watched Behind the Mask,
Yes, the rise
The
of Leslie
Rise
Vernon.
of Leslie Vernon. It's from 2006, so it's quite a weird time. Like I wasn't expecting a film like this to come out in something like 2006. You know, after having watched it, it
Mm-hmm.
feels late 90s.
Right, right. It definitely. Well, I think especially like the way it starts out with the documentary style
Yeah,
feels almost exactly like Blair Witch.
yeah,
Like the girl and the interview style and the way she's kind of talking and kind of telling the story and giving the background a little bit, like felt very, very much like Blair Witch. So it does feel like it kind of plants it firmly in that 99, 98
yeah,
feel.
yeah. But I was honestly, and I know you'll be pleased to say this, I was hooked from the first minute.
Oh, good. I love that she starts her documentary and she's talking about, first of all, this movie takes place in a universe where basically all horror movie killers are real
Yeah,
and exist
Freddy,
together.
Jason, Michael Myers, everyone.
Right, and
They're
she
all
name
real.
drops all of them while we get a cameo from Kane Hodder
Yeah,
sweeping the front porch
yeah,
of the Nightmare on Elm Street house.
perfect.
I mean, they pack just so much into it. It's so
Yeah,
good.
I,
Like
yeah.
so they play their hands right out in the open. They don't you know there's no
Oh no, there's no subtlety. There's very little
nothing
subtlety.
tongue in cheek. They're like, this is exactly what we are. We are talking about
Yeah,
these movies.
but I mean that's what I thought was fun about it, and I finished watching it probably 20 minutes before we started recording.
Oh sure.
So it is
Was it hard to track down?
no, actually, surprisingly not.
Hmm,
So
good. I
yeah,
want it to be accessible. I want everybody to find it.
yeah. Seriously, after this conversation, I'm sure people will want to go and watch
Oh, the
Behind the
internet's
Mask.
gonna catch fire once they hear this.
um, but yeah, I mean, it begins as this sort of fly on the wall documentary of this horror killer. Like a group of students are documenting the life of a horror killer.
Yeah, he basically is saying he's gonna be the next Freddy,
Yeah,
Jason, Michael Myers. You know,
but I mean, the guy is you know his performance makes this killer incredibly likable at the
oh,
start.
absolutely. He's so fun at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the film does take a dark turn, but by the end, but
Oh, of course.
yeah, towards the start, I was like, I want to be a horror killer. This guy's cool.
Oh yeah, I love the way when he's explaining it to her, and he
Yeah,
gives her the little. They're just talking about like the things he has to do. He has all the books about like
yeah,
escapism and like Houdini.
yeah,
He's talking about all the cardio he has to do, how hard it is. I gotta do that thing where I walk, but everybody else is running, and I gotta keep up
yeah.
with them.
It,
It's so good. Like
I was
everything is treated so seriously.
I was bursting into laughter so many times at just the pure genius writing of this film because it's just yeah, like lines like that, and you know, he actually something that I found interesting was it didn't only paint the killer as a likable guy, but also a quite a complex guy.
Yeah,
Complex.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, because you usually you see horror killers as one-dimensional machines, apart from maybe Freddy, who is funny.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean Leslie Vernon or Leslie, what is his actual name?
Yeah, I think they call it Leslie Mancuso.
Man,
At the end.
something
His
like
final
that.
name was Leslie
Yeah.
Mancuso. Well, that's
Um,
the thing we can get into, but I think what you were talking about goes into something I wanted to touch on as far as like the depth of his character and giving it a lot of that. I think you get when they go meet his mentor, which I love this
yeah,
part. So he has like a guy who's basically kind of helped him and trained him.
yeah.
Now this actor, I don't know if you're familiar. That's Scott Wilson who played the guy, and I don't know if you're a Walking Dead fan. I don't watch it, but I know he
I,
was on the first couple
I don't watch
seasons.
Walking Dead. No, I
Okay, he
do
was on
not.
the first couple seasons of Walking Dead.
Right,
But famously, one of his first roles was he was in the movie In Cold Blood.
right.
He played the partner of Robert Blake.
Oh, okay.
They're the two killers, which is that's a true crime book based
Yeah.
that Truman Capote wrote, and then the movie is In Cold Blood.
Right.
So he himself is like a horror legacy. So to have him kind of as the mentor character is a really cool little nod.
Yeah.
And again, here at like his house, they have some cool things like the car.
Oh,
The guy's
yeah.
car, Eugene, I believe is the mentor's
Yeah.
name, is Bruce Campbell's car from Evil Dead.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, when they're having the conversation,
That just
in
makes
the,
it better.
In the living room, you can see the little Hellraiser, the puzzle
Oh,
box
wow.
sitting on the table. There's so many nice
There's so much that I
touches.
didn't notice that you know about.
But yeah, they get into the little bit of the depth of what they do
Yeah.
and like why they do it, the nature of good and evil.
I found it incredibly interesting at how you could make a horror killer so deep.
And I like when the Eugene, the mentor too, is talking about the difference between like the type of killers they've become, like the Freddys and the Jasons, how they changed the game. And he's doing meta commentary on horror movies on the genre, but he's talking about it as in like the progression of real life murderers in this world. It's really interesting. It's just a really like
he was talking about like sort of one-hit wonders and hacks that are trying to imitate what the legends did, and it is just it's just pure shots at horrible movies that are trying to be Halloween. That's all, and just words are failing me currently because I just really liked this intense self-awareness.
Yeah. Well, we can get in. There's a couple other things I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, let's go.
Because, like, I don't want to take up your whole show.
Oh no, take up the show. I don't.
Dig into this thing for a while.
Go for it.
But so he's teaching them he's taking this documentary crew around and he's teaching them his methods and he's like going over the horror cliches. He's kind of it's almost like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, it feels like a behind the scenes of an actual film.
And he's talking like he does the thing where he sets up the girl to get spooked outside of her job.
Yeah.
And then he's pointing out the groups of kids at the school and talking about why you pick certain kids. And then, you have these, bring in the stoners that they just pad out your numbers.
Yeah.
And he's just got all these little kind of, it's very, the way is a very clinical approach to how he could make all this happen. It seems it could be very believable the way he's kind of going about it. It's really.
I mean, I love how he got the documentary crew involved in some of these scares as well.
Right.
It was just
Which, if you know anything about like, brainwashing and like how people get manipulated in situations where they end up doing things they would never do. Like that's classic. You get them involved in your crime, and you're like slow, surely, and then all of a sudden they're in way too deep, and that obviously plays into this movie too.
Yeah.
We have Robert Englund.
Oh my God, Robert Englund.
Playing a great role as what they refer to as the Ahab.
Yeah.
Which is like the crazed doctor who's trying to catch Leslie Vernon.
It reminded me of Donald Pleasance in Halloween.
Absolutely. Oh, very much. And did you catch the name too?
Yeah, Dick Halloran.
Right.
From Shining.
Reference,
Another reference.
Doc being one of the little boy, what they called the little boy.
Yeah.
Halloran. Yeah.
It's just so many references to
another horror icon, Zelda Rubinstein from the Poltergeist movies.
Yeah.
And this is where we get our first taste too. She gives the like quote unquote horror movie backstory for Leslie Vernon about, how he was abused. And again, we're getting this is
Yeah.
now the second kind of backstory, because Leslie gives a little bit of a backstory to what happened
Yeah.
at the beginning, but now we're getting like what the public thinks about Leslie
Yeah.
Vernon. And this is the first time it cuts out of the documentary style and into our kind of cinematic style.
Yeah.
And it's the first hint we get that we're gonna be switching back. Now we got something else coming into it. And they do kind of, it's all lit very much like a horror movie when she's given the speech and
Yeah.
talking with the girl in the library, low light in there, and that's really that's all very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I am going on record saying this. This is a horror fan, a slasher fan's dream film.
Yeah. Now, this is also where we get our first look at Leslie's like outfit. How'd you like the mask, the whole kind of creepy, his weapon of choice.
His weapon of choice. His weapon of choice is by far the best thing about him. Like the costume, I'm not huge on that. I'm not gonna say it's the best horror mask, ever. But yeah, weapon of choice, can't go wrong. It's a little scythe thing.
Like a hand scythe.
Yeah, like a hand scythe, and I am a lover of, not typical weapons.
Yeah.
Like.
And yeah, I agree. I think the whole outfit is okay. It's serviceable for what it needs to be.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like iconic. It's got the right kind of look.
Yeah, it's got the right look, definitely, and like you said, yeah. The hand scythe is a great weapon. I love the weapon, like the pickaxe in My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Coming up here in the end, that I wrote down specifically one of the kills that I want to mention because I think it's so great.
Yeah.
It uses an interesting tool.
Yeah.
So don't worry, I won't forget. This is also where we're getting into a point now where because the Robert Englund character shows up and he confronts the documentary crew.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're into. You think like this isn't what you think it is. He's a mental patient.
Yeah.
It's all,
I just can't get over Robert Englund playing the complete opposite of what we love him for.
Right. He's very much Donald Pleasance.
He's very much Donald Pleasance. And I love Donald Pleasance in that.
Oh,
in
man,
Halloween.
so
My
good.
God, it's perfect.
Good.
Yeah, go on.
We could do a whole other episode just talking about how great Donald Pleasance is.
We probably could.
Stay on topic. But this is also, and then that is what kind of gets us into where it kind of starts to get a little more serious.
Yeah.
And we get a taste of Leslie is not, effing around. And he kind of tells the girl in no uncertain terms. He's like, listen, this is your chance. He gives her an out. He's like, just go. But you're not going to get in my way. I'm not going to let you spoil this. And whatever. And, I've worked too hard and she doesn't. She kind of has her high moral ground, but she doesn't. She decides they're going to keep on keeping on and film it as it goes.
Yeah.
So they get back into the planning, and again, we're getting like behind the scenes stuff now. So it's like he's got the house where the kids are going to come party. He's setting things up. He's and telling you exactly how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And so we're getting like they keep flashing to versions. He's telling the story, but they're showing it to us. And we're getting to see his version of what goes on, and that comes back later when the actual events are happening.
Yeah, I mean, that, it does turn into a, legitimate third act of a horror film, then, as opposed to, like, this incredibly self-aware, behind-the-scenes documentary
and he's
comedy
also
thing.
Going into the science of horror movies in this. Not only is he showing the kind of setup, the way like planning the kills and setting up the house and rigging things so that he can set everything up, but he's also talking about like the idea of the survivor girl.
Yeah.
And what that means, and her having to like empower herself. And
that huge discussion on
all this like birth imagery.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting and kind of like pretentious, but cool, but like well played in the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
that character.
Yeah, I studied film for 2 years at college here in Britain, which isn't the same as college in America, and I always have to tell people that college in Britain is somewhere where you go from the age of 16 to 18.
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I studied film for 2 years there, and 1 year, one major topic was British horror, and so much talk of the whole, the birth imagery and the survival
Yeah.
girls and final girls, and it took me back to that wonderful classroom.
Yeah, and that's like I said. I think the movie nails it in a really like entertaining
Yeah,
way, and it doesn't feel like
I
it's a lesson. It's
yeah,
very tongue in cheek.
I
It's
just had a
very
I just had a
Frankfurt.
big smile on my face.
Yeah.
It's a big smile.
So
Um,
like the killing then like it starts. The kids show up at
yeah,
the house, and like
it,
the
it
documentary crew's there for his first actual murder, and
yeah,
it gets real, and they kind of like the girl kind of flips out.
it gets
Like you would.
quite
Like
brutal.
she had it in her mind a certain way, but somehow she had convinced herself it was never actually going to happen, and then it happens.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she, in the end, does confront him.
Right. Well, and then this is where we have our real turn, and we go away from the
Yeah,
documentary style,
and it turns
and we get
into an
into the
actual
full
horror.
cinematic, legitimate horror
Yeah,
movie. And the Leslie Vernon we've known and loved through the whole movie
yeah,
is gone. He
yeah,
literally is just that killer in that
yeah.
mask. And they do some really cool things that I don't want to spoil.
Oh no, but can
Great.
I mention that a vice is involved?
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
mention that. I won't mention what happens, but
No.
when you get to vices, it gets horribly brutal, and I love it.
Yeah. And there's some of that, and there's some really good moments where like you really see where they really like give him an opportunity to kind of break, and
Yeah,
you wonder is he the Leslie Vernon we've known in the first half of the movie, or is he this killer?
yeah.
What's gonna happen, and how's that gonna play out? But one death I am gonna spoil because we were talking about it. This stuff is so great. And
Okay,
it's only
go.
one. I'm gonna take this one, but he stabs a post hole digger down into a guy's chest
Yeah,
and pulls out his heart, and then puts the heart in
yeah,
his hand. Oh
yeah.
man, come on, that's so great.
It is. Come on, horror fans. That's great. Don't.
That's amazing. Like you could watch the whole, even if the whole movie sucked and that was in it, you would watch that movie just to get to that moment.
That is on anybody's
You
list
every
of top
horror
10
fan
kills.
listening to this has watched something that wasn't worth it, but had a couple good kills.
Yeah.
This is a movie and has good
A
kills.
good kill can save a film.
Yeah, and this is a good movie that didn't need it, but still has it.
Oh yeah,
So,
which is even better. Which
yeah,
is even
yeah.
better.
So we don't have to give away the whole finale and the final.
No, we
you know,
won't go. We'll just
before
tell.
that, but let's just say that this movie fulfills its own prophecy.
It
sets
it
something up
really
and it pays
does.
it off, and it does it in what I consider to be a brilliant manner.
Oh yeah, I
And
got.
then has maybe the best use of Psycho Killer in the credits of any movie ever.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, guys, I only watched it tonight. Go and watch Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon, because I absolutely loved it, and I may be in this sort of, bias mode after you've just watched something where you think it's the next best thing, but I honestly think this was excellent in what it was doing. I don't think, it was done great.
Yeah,
Really, really
it
great.
sets out to be a thing and it succeeds. I
It
think that's all
does,
you can
definitely,
ever
yeah.
ask from any movie.
It doesn't disappoint in any way.
No,
I mean,
it's really good. And this is one of those things, I think as movie fans, we all love
yeah,
to be able to introduce things to people.
yeah,
I think everybody likes to, find that thing that nobody else has heard of. And this is a movie that, since I first got it, which I probably got it in, 2007. And
right.
I think I bought it previously viewed from a DVD store, so it had to have been, new on, maybe only out a couple months. So basically
Right.
new on the shelf.
Right.
And for years, just anybody who I can talk to about horror or
Yeah.
interested, I will champion this movie. And
Well, I'm thankful you did. I'm very thankful you chose
and
that one
yeah, I'm
for.
going to have to wait a while to do this on my own show, because I was totally going to. I
Oh,
have to wait a while, and let it settle. But
I'm
I'll keep my
sorry.
notes though. That'll help. But no, I can say that as somebody who's watched it now, like I said, for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And seen it, so a lot of times. I rewatched it last night and was just loving every minute of it, and
Yeah.
still enjoying the little touches and like I said, there's those little things that I was talking about. And then now
Yeah.
you go back, get a chance to see it again,
Yeah.
and see those little just.
I'd bet if you watched it 10, 15 times, you'd find new things every time.
Yeah,
Just the little references that just make you smile. And what is a movie supposed to do other than make you smile?
No, absolutely, that's it. And I'm so glad, like I said, I was nervous because anytime you tell somebody, you endorse something,
Yeah.
like, I like this, I'm putting my stamp on it, and then somebody watches, you're like, oh.
I'd like to think how different this conversation would have been if I'd have just said, nah.
Nah, that was crap, man. That was garbage.
But thankfully...
You'd have probably humored me and just, like,
yeah.
pointed out some small things and just let me blab on about it. You just endorsed it that strongly.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, yep, that was a movie I watched all right. Anyway.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have had this delightful conversation, would we?
No, and it's a good one. And like I said, I was excited to talk about this movie, and
Yeah.
I'll be excited to talk about it again someday on the DVD bunker. Just put it,
And guys, listeners, look out for new episodes of the DVD bunker. Seriously, it's a great show.
We're having a good time.
Seriously.
It's just a lot of fun.
But that's all you can ask for from a show, that the hosts have fun. Okay, so we are nearing our end of episode 6. Brian, you have been a phenomenal guest, I must say. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. It has been a pleasure to cross over with the DVD bunker and watch Behind the Mask. Do you want to end with just a couple of plugs again?
Oh, sure, absolutely. And yeah, I wanted to say thank you for having me on.
You are most welcome.
A lesson out there to kids: if you want to get on a podcast, just whine about it on
Yeah.
the internet, and they'll call and invite you on. That
Yeah.
seems to work
But
pretty good.
be nice to me first.
It's true. You should be nice first.
Yeah.
That's something everybody on
nice.
the internet needs to
No.
learn. It's just
Be
try
nice
to be
first. Be nice first, then ask, and you will be on.
Right. Ask. Be nice and ask. Don't demand.
No, don't demand.
Just ask.
Ask
But,
politely.
Yeah, you can find me, like I said, on the TUFF channel, Unofficial Fan Fights, fighting on fan friction when I get the opportunity, and hosting the DVD bunker. We're trying to put out episodes every week now. So
Great.
Keep an eye out for those. I'm gonna keep doing them. So
Excellent.
next one coming up as of this recording is a kung fu movie called Eastern Condors. So
Okay.
look out for that, kung fu movie fans.
Right, well. Yeah. Okay, so, yes, as always, if you did enjoy this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe to this YouTube channel for more episodes, and I always say this, I don't know when it's going to happen, potential more videos about other things that may happen or may not happen, but might happen, that may be on this YouTube channel in the future. Or you can use the hashtag HorrorHousePod on Twitter if you want to ask me or Brian any questions about today's episode.
Oh,
if you
talk to me about Behind the Mask. If you've
talk
seen
to Brian about
Behind
Behind the Mask.
Talk to me about Behind the Mask at Hurstcules, hashtag DVD bunker, or I guess you don't have to hashtag DVD bunker, but you can.
Yeah. So yeah, at Hurstcules for Brian, at the Purple Don for me, at HorrorHousePod for the podcast. If you just want to even talk random horror, or even if you want to suggest, the next topic, or even some guests, please use that hashtag again, and mention us in the tweet so we see it. And yeah, this has been a wonderful episode. Thank you so much for coming on, Brian, at the last minute.
Thank you for having me. Anytime.
I'd love to have you back on at some point, and we could discuss maybe Donald Pleasance.
You know, we can do horror. We can talk horror remakes, because then we could talk Halloween and the Halloween remake.
Ooh, that is an idea. We haven't done horror remakes yet. We've mentioned a few. We haven't done an episode all out on horror remakes yet. That might be an idea. That might be Brian's next episode on HorrorHouse. Who knows?
Yeah, if you want to hear me back on HorrorHouse talking remakes, go ahead and tweet about that. Demand it. You know, just
Don't
like
demand. Ask politely.
Oh wait, yes, ask
Politely. I want to play up to stereotypes of being English and politeness.
You do sound, you sound so polite. You could say anything, and it's just like.
Well,
yeah.
in episode 5, Billy had me saying a particular Game of Thrones line that apparently people with my accent say, but I don't watch Game of Thrones. I know it's scandal.
Nah, I don't watch it either. You're fine.
Oh, yay. Someone else.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Brian, thank you so much again. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And till episode 7, goodbye.